Hello and welcome to the O&M Stockroom. We are your hosts, Brian McGarry.
And Ken O'Malley.
Tonight is episode 19 of Complimentary Cinema. If you're new to the channel, Complimentary Cinema is a program where we review and discuss films that you can watch for free that are available on YouTube. Be warned, we discuss these films in detail, so consider this a full spoiler alert. So it was my turn to pick tonight, and I decided to go with Mars Attacks, which I have wanted to watch for a very long time and never have. Directed by Tim Burton, it came out in the end of 1996, and it has a ridiculous ensemble all-star cast in this, including people who are very famous now who weren't really famous back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we enjoyed this one pretty thoroughly.
And a lot of even just background characters, celebrities that aren't even in it for very long or, not even that big of a part.
Just for a blink, really.
But that beginning scroll of names is just like it keeps going and going
and going. It's the Energizer Bunny of title credits as far as the star names.
It really is.
So, so it was directed by Tim Burton, based loosely on the Mars Attacks trading cards from the 1960s from Topps. That's definitely where the visual cues came from. And overall, it's a good spoof of just like mid-century science fiction in general, and War of the Worlds in particular. Just done in a very hilariously, wonderfully campy style.
Yeah, they take all those kind of tropes of an alien invasion, and then just they make the aliens completely ridiculous.
And they make 95% of the human characters completely ridiculous as well.
Yes.
It's hard to take either the aliens or the people seriously.
The people are like complete caricatures of America.
They really are.
Ways.
They really are. So, let's see. Let's talk about our cast of characters, of which this is pretty long.
This is a long list.
This is a long list. So first we have Jack Nicholson in a dual role. He plays both President James Dale and the Las Vegas entrepreneur Art Land. His first lady is Glenn Close, playing the character of Marcia Dale. You have Annette Bening as Barbara Land, Art Land's wife. Pierce Brosnan, during his James Bond era, I may add. He's playing Professor Donald Kessler. Danny DeVito as Rude Gambler.
He doesn't have a name even.
A good example of just one of the more background character types. Martin Short as Press Secretary Jerry Ross. Sarah Jessica Parker as Natalie Lake. Michael J. Fox in his final on-screen film role as reporter Jason Stone. Rod Steiger as General Decker. Tom Jones as Tom Jones. Lucas Haas as Richie Norris. Natalie Portman as Taffy Dale. Jim Brown as Byron Williams, Lisa Marie as Martian Girl, Sylvia Sidney, probably best known to modern audiences as Juno from Beetlejuice, and that was her final film as well. I mean, you've got Paul Winfield from Terminator, Pam Grier, Jack Black, Christina Applegate as Sharona, just some random dude's girlfriend in this. And just a ridiculous number of other people and background characters. Those are all the main ones that I would want to address in this one. So let's give a good rundown of our synopsis here.
So we start off with the aliens at the beginning. There's a scene of just kind of like somewhere in middle America where there's like cows that are running by on fire, and it looks like some Martian spaceship has lit cows on fire. And it's kind of sets the tone right off the bat because it's completely ridiculous to see like cows running on fire. I mean, it's horrifying, but it's also kind of a little silly.
It's silly because of the setup too. I mean, you have, some rural neighbors talking. It's like, hey, where's the barbecue? And he's like, yeah, it smells like a barbecue, but it's not for me. And just just even the effect of it, the effect of the fire on the cows, the effect of the really badly rendered spacecraft. It immediately just sets the tone of absurdity. And I have often, many times in this series, I have talked about how bad CGI, frustrates and irritates me to no end. In this film has terrible, awful CGI, and it's to its advantage every single time. All the spacecrafts are terrible. All the space scenes are terrible. I mean, it's like public school level, computer room level of animation at times.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean like mid-90s era schoolroom ability.
And it kind of adds the silliness because they're obvious. Like, if you tried to make it realistic, this movie wouldn't work. If you tried to make those realistic effects,
Absolutely.
the tone would be wrong.
Yeah. So the
Because
effects,
they're kind of like a comic book almost. I mean, they don't look like comics, but you know what I'm saying? Like they're
certainly based on a comic style of art though from those trading
Right.
cards, and it really the CGI, the effects fits the tone of the film. It fits the writing of the film. It fits the way that these actors portrayed these characters. I remember I was 13 or so when this film came out. Just thinking about how awful it looked. And at that time I was into serious sci-fi. So I really was like snubbing my nose at it for, quite a few years. I'm finally I'm in a place in my life where I can actually appreciate this for the fantastic gem that it is.
So anyway, we set our scene here with the aliens are we see them all getting on their spaceships and they're flying towards Earth, and we cut to the president, and he's getting briefed on Martians are coming and we're gonna make first contact. What are we gonna do? And all of his advisors are telling him, we're gonna try to communicate with them because they're highly intelligent, or his press secretary says like we're gonna make a big deal of it. We're gonna get all the ratings from this, and think of the campaign basically. And then there's that one general that's like, we should nuke them all.
It's a great introductory scene for these characters because so you have Pierce Brosnan playing the professor, Donald Kessler. He's a very just smug, self-assured, almost arrogant intellectual type who's he just immediately is like, well, they're an advanced civilization, so clearly they're not belligerent and aggressive like us more primitive folks. So we should have absolutely nothing to worry about. And you see very quickly too how this president has you don't quite find out right away that he has no spine and no ability to make a decision on his own, but it's demonstrated very early on that he's a leaf on the wind when it comes to these things. He's got to get everyone's opinion, and he just kind of goes with the majority vote.
Yeah, exactly. He just goes with everyone else's opinion, and then he doesn't have any accountability, really.
Oh, none. And so the majority opinion in this room is like, hey, how can it possibly be a bad thing? These hundreds of flying saucers coming straight for Earth. So.
Yep. So we see a number of other scenes, and all of this also just sets the tone for the humor, because it's very obvious from the beginning that everyone has their kind of little niche they're playing. And it's kind of this view of America of like...
You get a very beautiful cross-section of just different classes, different classes and different cultures.
Right.
You've got the inner city bus lady, her estranged husband. You have, you have like the white-collar reporters, obsessed with their TV life. You've got the, the redneck. How quick can he put this rifle back together?
Yeah, the whole family.
The whole family, a whole screwed up family, I may add. And it's just a beautiful little snapshots. And
then the Vegas scene, you've got all the people gambling, the guy that's just trying to make money and to send back to his family, who's the kind of city family in Washington. And so you get a whole bunch of little scenes of just like little slices of life and how ridiculous it is, just how ridiculous these normal people are, or their normal lives are.
Yeah, but and even some of it too is still relatable in a way. You have the mother who's like chasing after her two kids who aren't coming home. They're not going to school. They're playing hooky.
I should say not ridiculous, like in a bad way, but it's like they play up the humor right from the bat, just showing real situations and how people are reacting.
Just a little in extremis, like Danny DeVito's oblivious, gambling character, just absolutely not paying attention to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just very focused in on himself and what he wants.
And the floor manager at the casino.
Oh yeah, that was a great one. So Byron, the former boxer turned Las Vegas club entertainer. He just wants a raise. So he's like, hey, can I talk to you in private, boss? He's like, nope, gotta watch the floor. What do you want, Byron? They have their exchange, and he just shuts him down when he wants a raise, and just very.
I identified with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us have been there. Just like, hey, I'm a little lean, could use a raise. Nope, can't do it. I can replace you super easy with somebody even cheaper. So just be grateful you're getting your poverty wage. Thanks, America. Free market capitalism.
There it is. So we have just basically the president decides he's going to go on TV and he's going to announce there's Martians coming, and but not really say a whole lot about that. Just we're gonna see what happens, basically.
I mean, it was a very we're on the brink of a new era kind of a thing. I mean, it was
he gives those speeches where it's like super processed.
It's an absolutely perfect politician's speech because it says a lot and tells you nothing.
Yeah,
just lots of words floating in the air. But we did like the touch where he's sitting there by the fire.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nice touch. The fireside chats.
Yep.
So the Martians come and they decide that they're going to meet him in the Nevada desert, which is like you do. Area 51,
right.
Roswell, blah, 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 blah.
It's just the area that's, that's just where aliens come.
That's just where aliens go. That's where you go hang out with the aliens. I get it. So they pick one of their generals, General Casey, played by Paul Winfield. I love this guy. He was in Terminator. He's in Star Trek 2. He's in one of the most famous episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. Not a famous actor by any means, but just... I've loved everything I've ever seen this guy in. And he has a great little role here where he plays he basically plays Colin Powell of the film.
Yeah, he plays like the general on the opposite end of the other one where he's like, oh, well, it'll be fine. We'll work it out,
The diplomatic general
exactly.
Who's very, more of a peace lover and less hawkish, which is...
Yeah. It's basically like, let's put on a good show instead of, let's use force.
Yeah, which, honestly, if we are going to make first contact with another species, we should at least begin on a peaceful note.
Yeah, make an attempt.
I think that was the right step to do in the first place.
Yeah.
Was yes, extend the olive branch, extend the peace feelers. That's what you do when you encounter a new culture or, meet with a new group of people. So I think that was the right decision. Even if our idiot president, James Dale, came to it simply by like, oh yeah, I guess that sounds good. So the first flying saucer comes down. There's lots of people gathered here. And they have this... One thing I love about this scene is like the really bad analog tape translator.
Yeah.
It's like they took two reel-to-reels, but used the small reels and just kind of threw it together. And, oh yeah. In a previous scene, there's a transmission from the alien spacecraft before they land. And I absolutely love this scene because it's the entire Martian dialogue is ack, ack, ack.
Yeah.
There are no other syllables. Sometimes they say ack, like ack. They change the tone of the ack, but it never is anything but ack.
Right.
Which reminds me of it's like how the Romans came up with the term barbarian. It's because apparently they felt like the people from Africa and other places just said bar, 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 bar. So barbarian. And I was just thinking of like that kind of mentality with the dialogue for the Martians. You know, like it would be unintelligible to us anyway. So why not just make it comically stupid and just go ack.
Yeah.
So that was funny.
It's completely ridiculous.
Just ridiculous, keeping in keeping the tone of the film. So they're using this ridiculous, crappy contraption to translate.
And also in this scene, they have the TV people who we've seen a couple scenes with them, their relationship before, and they're also just like, you know, the lady who is going to do the interview is the like fashion reporter from whichever station, and she doesn't know anything about anything.
She knows less than nothing about anything.
And she carries a little giant-eyed rodent dog with her.
A chihuahua, as it's sometimes known.
Yes.
Yeah, just completely oblivious. She has a scene earlier in the film with the Professor Kessler, and she can barely just even pronounce the word astronomy.
Yeah.
Or science.
So
but
there's a whole lot of stuff leading up to that part.
Lots of stuff.
But then everything there is just like cranked up all the way. They have tanks. They've got, military just kind of standing in the background.
Tons of hippies. Hippies everywhere.
Hippies everywhere in the desert.
Annette Bening, what was her character's name? Barbara Land. Yeah, she's the very hippie wife, peace-loving, earth-loving.
When she's like turned a leaf, she was an alcoholic, so she's like, she's trying to get herself in order, and she thinks that this is like the sign. The Martians are here.
They're going to help us.
Everything's going to go well now.
So she's watching from like a butte off in the distance, getting a really good view of everything. She's all happy. She's all excited. Finally, the Martians come down. The Martian ambassador and some soldiers descend from the ramp, and our General Casey's all, really excited and just, all right, this is an important moment. And he makes a fantastic, little speech to the Martians, and they kind of look at each other and nod like, yeah. And they get the translator to work, and it sounds like, oh, hey, become in peace. And one of the best moments in the film, the hippie with the dove. A hippie just lets this dove loose into the air, and it's flying, and it's passing over all the people below, and the aliens look at it, and they whip out this huge ray gun and just vaporize it.
Yep.
And then they just start to kill everybody.
And this is really the first time we get a great look at the aliens, and they look completely ridiculous. They have the giant heads and, no skin, and their movements are kind of funny.
They're lollipop heads, like super skinny, scrawny bodies, giant bulbous heads, and they look stupid. They look absolutely stupid, and they're based primarily on the artwork from those old cards. And that old artwork is great. I mean, it's kind of scary, but it's also very much a product of the time period it was made. And, 30 plus years later, it's definitely a dated look, which adds to the charm of this film.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of killing. Michael J. Fox, he's one of the reporters. He gets vaporized. Sarah Jessica Parker's reporter character, she gets kidnapped. Jack Black is in this. Is like a redneck army guy who gets, completely wasted.
The body count gets pretty high.
The body count just gets astronomically high very quickly, and even now the best thing about after this, the president and his advisors meet, and they're like, oh well, maybe there was a cultural miscommunication or something, and you're just like, you fucking idiots.
And like you could see this happening. Like this is so. It's so funny because it's so ridiculous.
This is like exactly what would happen on Earth tomorrow if we were visited by an aggressive race.
It's just like the extreme, Just
oh man.
But they think, oh, maybe it's the birds. Like maybe they're offended by birds.
Maybe they like the birds, yeah. And then and then the Martians communicate again, like, oh hey, we're we're sorry. We didn't mean to kill a bunch of people. We'd like to address Congress. And, everyone thinks that's a great idea. Let's let the Martians into the, the Capitol building and address Congress.
It's like these aliens are the biggest trolls, and the people just keep falling for them over and over and over.
And over. So, guess what happens in the Capitol building after the alien ambassador goes to address Congress?
Well, everything was fine, right? Because there was no birds.
Yeah, there's no birds. There's no hippies.
So it was great.
Naturally, it went well until they pulled out a bunch of ray guns, started killing everyone. It's just fantastic. And then, Pierce Brosnan's, intellectual characters there, and he's like, "This doesn't make any sense." Because how could this guy possibly be wrong about these aliens' intentions? And then our president James Dale has absolutely no idea what to do, of course, because now he's down his professor,
and he's asking his family,
like, Marcia, what should I, what do you think? Well, it's like, he loses his first general, in Nevada. Then in this scene, he loses his scientific advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Which just leaves the Weasley press secretary.
We've already seen the press secretary's character building scene was him soliciting hookers. So
several of them.
He's not,
He's not exactly morally incorruptible. Let's just say.
Yeah.
So he's left with his press secretary and one really angry red-faced general who just wants to nuke these guys.
Mm-hmm. So in a lot of ways, it's too like all those advisors, they're overcome by their weaknesses.
Oh, absolutely. Hubris.
Yeah.
And then the press secretary, he falls into a trap ridiculously easy. He tries to solicit an alien in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Who I have to say has the best beehive hairdo I have ever seen.
Yeah, she has a huge skin suit on, basically. That her huge bulbous head is the hair.
Yes. And this lady doesn't say a word to him, but he's like, "Oh, do you want to see the White House? Do you want to see let me show you the Kennedy room," which apparently is like an illicit sex room, which I'm going to tell you right now, that's how I want my bedroom to look when I'm filthy rich. Once we have like 10,000 patrons that are all coughing up like $100 a month, it'll be amazing.
You definitely have to have that secret button, though.
You got to have the secret button underneath the statue.
Yeah.
But it's just great. I like it because it's like dark and brooding and has like, but it's like really swank. Mm-hmm. And I love the aquarium.
Yeah.
That's a great
huge
scene.
Aquarium right when you walk in.
Huge aquarium.
Many leather-bound books.
Just, cool lamps. It's got it all. It's a great room. Like, that's the kind of place where you can really just kick back and enjoy some leisure time.
Yep.
Perhaps a nice game of crossword puzzle. Or,
whatever they call it these days.
Whatever the kids call it these days. And, turns out, so he's bested by the alien disguised assassin who then narrowly almost assassinates the president.
Mm-hmm. Kills the first dog. And is only thwarted because the alien once again sees a bird and can't help but shoot the bird. It gives the Secret Service people an opening to kill that alien. So we do see that there's some things that the aliens genuinely don't like. I wouldn't consider that like a weakness yet, but that was, there are things that catch their fascination.
Certainly distract them.
Yeah.
Oh God. So it is kind of hard to follow this film at times just because of how many different things are going on. You have a lot of subplots in this movie.
We do have, I guess, four kind of areas, full areas that we keep jumping back and forth between. And that's not counting all the little clip side parts too. Like, where he calls France at the one point. Or like, they show during some of the destruction parts, they show all throughout the world.
Oh, yeah. Lots of little world building scenes that I like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Those always, and they're always in Tim Burton films too.
Yeah. And they almost always, at least in this film, build the humor. They always kind of, it's just adding on. I think the humor in this movie really works that way. It keeps building itself.
And in absolute complete opposition to last week's film, all of the humor in this film is situational.
Mm-hmm.
In last week's film, which is probably one of the most unfunny films I ever have seen, and I feel like we should just flush that podcast down the toilet because it was so bad, because all we had to say about it was that it was crap. So like in that film, every joke was just a written joke. It was like, like, hey, like why does the chicken cross the road type of humor.
Right.
Like it wasn't based on what was actually going on in the film.
Mm-hmm. And it had nothing to do with the characters.
Had nothing to do with the characters. Like all of the humor in this and why it works is because it's intimately tied to what's happening in the film and to the nature of these people.
And the ridiculousness.
Just
of the situation. It's like the nursing home. That's a great example too. The redneck family has a grandma that only the one kid cares about. He's always thinking about grandma. Like, you got to take care of her. He drives her home.
Yeah.
Make sure she's okay. And they set up all the little elements there of it's funny because it's it's a silly little old folks home, and she's got her.
Grandma's absolutely nuts. She doesn't even recognize her own members of her family.
But she's got her stuffed cat.
She's got her stuffed cat.
And she's got a record player.
And she's got her Slim Whitman.
She knows exactly what she wants, And all those little touches, like, that adds exponentially, because it's something interesting to think about, It's something to not just lines people are saying. They really built a lot into this movie.
Yeah, like there's not really anything that goes on that doesn't. There's not just stuff on the screen just for the sake of it being on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like in one scene early on, when the aliens start abducting people, you see the inside of one of their spacecraft, and you have little jars, I guess, or containment pods where they're keeping samples, and there's a big fat clown in the back, and that's a Tim Burton film. He also did Batman Returns. It's a little homage to the fat clown character from that film. But like with Grandma, she kept saying, early in the film, I want to see Muffy and Slim. I want Muffy and Slim. Muffy being the dead stuffed cat, Slim being her Slim Whitman records.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who do not know who Slim Whitman is, he was a very tall, old style country crooner. He's probably best known for the song "I Will Remember You," which I happen to like quite a lot. But he definitely does that thing really well.
Mm-hmm.
The almost yodeling type of country singing.
Right.
Which will play a fundamental role in the film's climax at some point.
But yeah, there's just a lot of little scenes in here. Like, it keeps jumping back and forth between. We keep checking up on our characters, The guy in Vegas, he was a boxer. So the Art Land, who's kind of the scummy casino builder, he's trying to get him to like rough someone up for him. He's like, no, I left that life behind. I'm trying to get back to my wife. So we've got this whole story of like, he's trying to get back to his ex-wife now, I guess, and kids. They're trying to like rebuild that relationship. So he's got to get back to her anyway. He's already supposed to be going back home, but now there's like a big crisis. So it's even
the stakes are higher.
Right, the stakes are higher for sure.
And the temptations become greater, and yet he walks the straight and narrow.
Yes. So even those side, like, because in the grand scheme of things, that was definitely like a way side, just the way it's broken up.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like, okay, why are we, like, why is all this Vegas stuff important, But it all builds towards where we're headed.
The nice thing is there aren't any loose threads in this film when it's done.
Yeah, for sure. That's all used pretty well. And, the people who weren't important because their characters were that great are there to get killed.
And for a good laugh,
Yes.
Or for a good, entertaining moment.
Yes.
So what eventually ends up happening, just to kind of wrap up the description of this, the synopsis, basically the Martians declare all-out war. Our president is still completely inept. He doesn't know what to do. He wants to give a speech about, hey, at least 2 of the 3 branches of American government are still working, and that ain't bad. And he gives a really lousy speech that, hey, we'll come to a real outcome one way or the other. Nice, vague, political talk. And
Yeah, he can't deal with the pressure at all.
he can't deal with the pressure at all. He's just there to smile, nod, look pretty. He doesn't know what to do. He can't make decisions. And even the people who know what to do aren't much help either. So we get our angry, red-faced, General Decker. He's like, Mr. President, I need you to sign this. It's authorizing our nuclear capabilities. And, and he's mentioned this a few times in the film by this point.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time he finally hands the president the paper with the pen and he finally signs it, you're like, all right, finally. So they launch a nuke right at one of the flying saucers that are in space. And you're thinking like, oh shit, this is it. It's on. What's going to happen? Well, the flying saucer lets out like a little red,
like a whoopee cushion
almost like a
balloon.
whoopee cushion. Like a little spherical thing with a little like metal orifice at the end. Comes into contact with the nuclear weapon, explodes, huge explosion. It then sucks up the nuclear explosion into this like little red balloon, takes it back to the spacecraft. And the aliens inhale it like helium from a balloon and then talk in a mocking voice in a transmission to the people of Earth. And that sums up this entire movie amazingly.
That's the tone of everything.
That is the entire spirit of the film right there. Take a nuclear explosion, put it in a balloon, and then suck it up like helium and have a laugh.
Yep. And like the aliens are laughing at the humans all the time.
Every chance they get.
They like do all kinds of weird stuff too, like on their ship. They did all kinds of weird experiments, and
they take Sarah Jessica Parker's head, they put it on her dog, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
The fun thing they did with Pierce Brosnan's character, they just basically completely dismembered him and have various bits of his body just hooked up to tubes, dripping blood here and there. For no discernible reason other than just because they could.
Yep. I mean, that explains them and like altogether though. They just do all kinds of stuff just because. Just
because, And this film exists just because.
It's just pure chaos.
So the nuclear attack against the Martians goes nowhere. And it's looking pretty bleak at this point because, the human race, the nuclear option is the final option.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most, at least presumably, the most desperate step that we would take to defend ourselves or defend the planet. And it has absolutely no effect. Meanwhile, Martians are going around, they're just destroying everything in sight.
Yeah. That's what we get our scene, like, in England, we get, them blowing up Big Ben, and in France, they destroy the Eiffel Tower.
They're just destroying everything. They remake what's that monument in South Dakota?
Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore. They remake in their ridiculous visage. And finally, we end up at the trailer park in the middle of nowhere where Jack Black's character's family was living. And the late, the grandma, the crazy grandma. Then you have the young kid who's like, hey, I need to go help grandma. And his family don't give a shit about him. He's like kind of like a long-haired alternative kid. And
yeah, they're always like, why couldn't you be like your brother?
Your fat redneck army brother.
All he could do was shoot a gun. And actually, he couldn't even do that.
He couldn't even do that when the time came. It's like, oh, man. It's really funny, like what good is it to be able to reassemble a weapon in less than 2 minutes, blindfolded, if you can't even like pull the trigger and keep the magazine in the... Anyway.
Yeah.
Just very funny how, the parents don't actually value what's worth valuing.
Mm-hmm.
And this,
which comes to a head when they decide they're going to defend the trailer to the death.
They're going to defend the trailer to the death, and there's no damn way that those aliens are going to get the TV.
Yep.
Got to remember what's important to America. The television.
So good.
So the young, I can't remember the character's name, but Lucas Haas's character, he's the younger brother. He wants to save grandma. They're like, oh, she's half gone anyway. But he's like, he loves grandma. You know, in the ride back to the nursing home, she talked about how Richie was his name.
Yeah.
How only Richie was the really good one, you know, which of course made him all happy.
Right.
So he's like, I got to go get grandma. So he goes and gets grandma. And I love it. So like the Martians are even destroying the nursing home. They're blowing up patients, or not patients, but residents.
There's like a wheelchair with a skeleton rolling around.
You know, just absolute ridiculous, just visual gags. Grandma loves her music. She's listening on headphones, completely oblivious to what's happening behind her. You know, the whole back wall falls down. The aliens see her. Instead of just, she's zapping her with a ray gun really quick, they bring in the most giant, ridiculous, like laser beam and just put it like within an inch of her head.
Like the gags in this movie are next level. There was so much laughter.
So, Richie, he comes in right in the nick of time. Grandma, accidentally pulls her headphones out of the stereo, and Slim Whitman fills the air. And what does Slim Whitman do? Slim Whitman does the same thing that modern country music does to me. It makes my head explode into a gooey green mess. And it kills the aliens. Yep. They finally have found a genuine way to defeat them.
The weakness.
The power of music.
Well, specifically.
The
sound of Slim Whitman yodeling.
Who would have thought? So, through one means or another, they go to, so they go to a radio station and they start playing Slim Whitman on the air, and through various means that ends up traveling. Word gets out.
Yeah.
They don't exactly explain it, but you can see that everyone starts developing the Slim Whitman technique of alien combat, and basically, slowly but surely just wipe them all out.
Mm-hmm. That was another kind of fun little scene. They established earlier that the mom that drives the bus and her kids, the kids are always cutting school to play the shooting video game. So when the time comes, they actually defend the president because they were on a school tour in the White House and they know how to use the ray guns. They're actually like...
They're all about it. Like, they're better than the Secret Service. They're better than the Army.
Yep. So then at this point in the movie also, it shows that them just walking down the street with boom boxes, blasting
Slim Whitman.
Just destroying the aliens.
Absolutely love it. So that's essentially the film.
Yeah. We kind of end in a post world, with this new order. Like, everyone who was in any kind of power has died. So all that's left is basically, just the remnants of humanity. And the kid and the grandma get the Medal of Honor. And he just gives like an awkward speech, just like, would expect a teenage kid to do.
And the orphaned child of the president and first lady is the one who bestows the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Yeah. It's just a nice little ridiculous wrap up.
It is, it's just, everything's in ruins. But that's exactly, this is exactly how it would go. Like, we constantly have incompetent people in power making terrible decisions all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had seen this film like 25 years ago when I was a kid, I would have thought, well, that's ridiculous. That would never happen.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's exactly what would happen. If we did get lucky enough to survive that, it would be because of just dumb fucking luck of discovering that, hey, Slim Whitman makes these things heads explode.
Mm.
It wouldn't be because of anything that anybody in power made the decision to do.
I really like that all the people who had the right kind of life outlook were all the people that survived too. The teenage kid looking after his grandma, the guy wanting to get back to his wife and kids.
When you realize, when you think about it, nobody who was trying to save their own skin actually survived.
Right. Well,
generally speaking,
there was Tom Jones.
There was Tom Jones.
Just being Tom Jones.
Just, he just got kind of swept up in the action. But all the people that we were following, all the people who cared about other people were the ones who made it.
Right.
All the selfish people went away.
That's why I think that's the reason why it feels good. Because there is a greater moral purpose to the movie other than just, expose how ridiculous America is and this whole situation is. But it really shows you, like, these people had the right idea, in the grand scheme of things. They were looking after the right people.
Yeah. They valued what was really important.
Right.
Each other.
The true treasure was the friendships we made along the way.
The real meaning of Christmas was not the Nancy Reagan chandelier that crushed the First Lady.
No.
It was actually cut school, play the shoot 'em up, and defend the president.
I think it's amazing that they had this many people that had lines in this movie and were a part of it, and it still didn't feel overwhelming.
No, because there was a really great balance. You had, because, Jack Nicholson gets top billing, and he plays two characters in this film. But even he doesn't oversaturate the film.
Yeah.
Everybody has at least one moment to shine, sometimes two, sometimes three or four, and that's it. No one character necessarily dominates the narrative. That's why it doesn't feel overwhelming, because it's not like you have the one main couple people to follow and then all the other people.
Right. And we spent a lot of time too with that setup, which was really good too.
They really took their time with it. Like, I didn't pay attention to what time things occurred necessarily, but it was a good half an hour before, say, action things really started to rev up. They did take their time, and I love that. Like a more modern movie would be just action right away.
Right.
Your setup is so minimal so often. So this would probably be a good time to talk about some of our extraneous characters in the film.
It's kind of hard to say with a movie like this.
With a movie like this, I don't think there is any such thing. Because you have... So, like, one of the more extraneous characters you have... Okay, so you have, like, Mitch, the social security, the Secret Service guy, Mitch. He's shown a couple times throughout. He's the one who lets the press secretary into the White House with the so obviously not human female.
Mm-hmm.
So he's introduced, and he serves his role there. And later on he says, "Oh, I'm just doing my job." It's like, yeah, not very well though, because you let her in the first place.
Yeah.
And he ends up getting offed along with the president and some others, in another scene. But even he has a little bit of an arc. Oh man. Maybe the manager of the donut shop who just yells at Richie for a moment in Spanish because he's screwing around, not actually working.
That's fair.
That might be the one, that might be the most extraneous character, but it's not a detraction in this case. It's just, hey, he was, he's at work and his boss is yelling at him.
I think it's just like all the stuff that added to the world building was fine. It didn't feel extraneous in the moment. It was just like, oh yeah, this kid's got a crappy job, working at the donut shop,
Yeah. So that's, so I guess for this film, that's just not really going to be an issue this time.
Yeah.
Now, here's a little more complicated one. What about the best performance of this film? Now, it's always easy to say Jack Nicholson, right? Because, he's a legend and he's doing two roles and everything.
And two very different roles.
Two very different roles. And I couldn't tell that it was him as the second one at first.
Mm-hmm.
He changed his voice just a little bit. He's got like a fake nose on, but it's done really well.
And he has the hat and the glasses too.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's well disguised. It was only when he smiled with his teeth showing that I'm like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. There was a little bit about the way he spoke too, just near the, at the end of his sentences. Just the way he talks. He can't really help it.
He had little giveaways, but it was hard. If you had told me it was another actor, I would have believed you.
Yeah.
If you'd that's James Madison, the famous actor who was in The Thing You Never Saw. I'd have been like, okay. But it was, so I thought he did really great on that. But there's no bad performances in this.
Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan is a fantastic actor who plays a wonderfully schmarmy professor. Annette Bening is great. Sarah Jessica Parker plays a delightful airhead. Michael J. Fox, I love him,
Yeah, I think that it was really well cast.
Yeah.
Just like you had the important parts when you needed it.
You did. Yeah, as far as like just pure acting chops, I would have to give it to Jack Nicholson in this case, just because he had the bigger challenge
Yeah.
of doing the two roles that were that different.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, yeah, he was just awesome. One thing I want to say though, so Pam Grier is in this film. She plays the mother of the two boys who shoot the aliens and skip school. And I feel like she was really underutilized in this film, and I would have loved to have seen more of her.
Yeah.
Like she is a kick-ass actress.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have liked to just see her more to do in the film other than just worry about her kids.
That's fair.
Soundtrack.
It was generic action movie.
I don't remember a single note of music at all.
Yeah.
Other than the Tom Jones song, which they played a couple times.
There was that, which was a nice surprise. When he comes on the first time, and then
Yeah, I wasn't
just
expecting
really
that.
Tom Jones.
But part of it is, a good chunk of the movie is set in Vegas, and
Right.
he is iconic in Vegas. He
Yeah.
is iconic of Vegas.
Yeah.
Rather.
If you were gonna pick one person, especially this time period,
Yeah.
to be representative, what's going on in Vegas during an alien invasion, he was perfect.
Yeah. Your runner up would be Engelbert Humperdinck. But I just don't think he has the action chops required.
Right.
In this film.
To run around and fly a plane.
Yeah, I just don't think he had it in him.
Also, just because it was such a glorious scene, but Tom Jones, along with one of the I guess waitresses or showgirls, whatever you want to call it, from
the Egyptian barmaid lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then the hippie wife,
Barbara Land.
Barbara
Annette
Land,
Bening's character.
they fly to Lake Tahoe, and when they get there and they come out when the aliens have been defeated, they go full Snow White and all the woodland animals come to them, and she literally sticks her hand out and a bird lands on it.
Another dove lands.
Yeah, and Tom Jones is petting the deer, and it's beautiful because it just
Completely stupidly absurd, and I loved it.
yes. I had to mention that. That was one of my favorite scenes near the end there.
Yeah, it was wonderful. So final recommendation for this film. I absolutely recommend seeing this. It was not as well received in the year that it came out. It was a little bit of it was a hit or miss for a lot of people. I just don't think it was the right film at the time for Tim Burton's kind of audience. A lot of people didn't know what to make of this film then.
See, I think
The other thing I want to point out too, if I can just stop you for a moment, Independence Day came out earlier in the year, and that was a huge deal when that came out. Like that movie is glossed over today.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hold up as well. It's still an enjoyable, fun film, but at the time it completely overshadowed something like this. And I think that's probably what a lot of people were comparing it to. This more serious, stylized comedy, sci-fi alien invasion movie versus this ridiculously stupid, campy one, which is a fantastic homage to, like, what if the War of the Worlds happened now, but it was stupid?
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole basic premise of this film.
Yeah.
And you have to, like you were saying earlier, you have to kind of be in tune with Tim Burton's sense of style and humor, I think.
And a lot of it too is just like that absurdity is cranked up so high that if you appreciate that kind of humor, this is an easy recommendation. It's just, absurd to the nth degree, and kind of like, it's not a movie like it at all, but in the way that Edward Scissorhands really kind of plays into that absurdity too, of just, the situation, how people normally act, and just really putting a magnifying glass on how ridiculous people can be just in everyday life. So I would definitely recommend this to anyone who can appreciate that kind of just crazy, absurd humor, and you're in the mood for it's a weird mix up because it's also just ultra violent. There's people dying everywhere, and they just turn into skeletons. It's not like it's gory, but and then the aliens kind of have green blood, goo, gore, So yeah, you have to be okay with a little violence, a little ultra violence, but it's not like super gory. It's just ridiculous.
It's certainly far less genuine gore than what you would have like in any mild horror film either.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, 8+, 10 out of 10. Would recommend again.
I laughed a lot, which is a great sign.
And a great change from last week's film.
Yes.
Which I'm not even going to name.
This is genuine comedy.
This is good comedy, well-written comedy, and I love Tim Burton's films. You know, even Pee-wee's Big Adventure from like 85. And this is really its own thing. It's not kind of like how like Planet of the Apes was a Tim Burton film, but it's outside of his usual thing.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, not a good thing. In the case of this film, it's an excellent thing.
Yeah.
It's too bad we don't have more films like this in a way.
Yeah.
But that's also what makes this one so special.
It's a great examination of just how ridiculous it is to be an American sometimes, and when that intersects with aliens, it's just all bets off.
It's beautiful. Thank you for tuning in to Complimentary Cinema here on the O&M Stockroom. We're your hosts, Brian McGarry.
And Ken O'Malley.
And please tune in every Wednesday for a new episode on YouTube, Apple Music, all the places where you can find us. And what's our website again, Ken?
omstockroom.com.
Until next time.